What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're talking about Ironman Chattanooga, race recap and review, and also some thoughts about the Ironman relay that was had that weekend as well. A relay race for the Ironman distance. Thoughts and opinions on it, and course review coming up.
We only get one life. We only get one life. Let's live it up. We only get one life. We only get one life like this. We only get one life. We only get one life like this.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Ken Jr. from Giving It a Try. As the intro stated, today we're going over the 2022 Ironman Chattanooga event, a little race recap, course overview and review, as well as we're going to dip into, which you'll find out, how I participated this past weekend in an actual Ironman relay for the full distance event. My thoughts, opinions, and kind of some of the logistics on how that relay went. So why Ironman relay? Last year, if you followed the journey, was my first Ironman in Chattanooga, 2021. Had a great year training. It was fun. Great day overall. If you go back in the videos, there's a race review and recap on that race as well. But just wanted to refresh everybody. I was able to go down there again, check the course out, and this time able to participate in the event in a relay fashion. I fundraised for Team Blue Line, a 501c3 nonprofit charity. This was the team race for that team this year. We were going back to Chattanooga. We had 3 relay teams assembled just to get more people from the team involved in going down there to the race. Bunch of people doing the race, some first timers. Great time down there, but this time I just decided, because I already had some goals this year of racing some shorter middle distance stuff, 70.3s, that I didn't want to commit to a full Ironman, and especially I wanted to do North Carolina in 2 weeks from time today, and it didn't fit goal-wise with how I wanted to perform at those other races. But I said, I'll do the bike leg, because I know last year I wanted to gain a little more bike fitness, so I concentrated on some longer distances leading into this race day for just doing the bike, the elongated bike there, 116 miles, and just, have at it. I figure I'll prepare properly. I know what I did last year at that course on the bike course, and I'll go there knowing the course and hopefully be able to put down a really good bike split since I wasn't doing the swimming and the running. We'll get more into the relay aspect of things in a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a recap on what went down this year in Ironman Chattanooga. So leading into the race day, traveling wise, getting down there, uneventful. I'm coming from New York, Long Island. It's about a 13-hour drive. Whole family went down. I decided to take everybody, pack the bike up, and just drive down there again. It worked out pretty well last year. Just like last year, we took 2 days to get down there, drove quite a few hours, stayed overnight, and was able to drive in the next day and get to the rental house for the team. I find it's better, especially from distance, taking that 2 days to get down there, because you're just not, mentally and physically, smoking yourself with tired legs, sitting in the car, tightening up. You're able to take a few rests, get down there, have a good night's sleep, and head home. So we arrived in Chattanooga on Thursday. We went to the team house. We stayed up north this time of the city of Chattanooga in Signal Mountain. It was probably about a 35-40 minute drive from the race site. Not terrible. It's probably the max distance I would want to stay away. Last year we stayed on the south end in a rental house across in the Georgia border. And it was just a little easier traveling wise from the south direction to get there. North, it is very hilly. You're kind of going up some mountains and slow roads and twisty roads and some interesting roads, but very beautiful. Thank God the bike course doesn't go that route, because the elevation that way would be something else. The house was beautiful. We had a bunch of people stay. I think we had 8 bedrooms. They were all full. We were able to have team dinner there Friday night. We all checked in Friday at the Village. We headed down there as the meetup point. This is a national team, so we did have people coming from all different states as well. So it was nice to be able to meet there, check in together. Those doing the full distance were able to rack their bikes together for race day, get those numbers in successive order. Just note, if you're doing a relay, you do have to check in with your entire team, whether it's 2 or 3 members. We knew that ahead of time, but they were stuck in traffic. We did make it though. We did get checked in. We did get everything squared away. And the Village set up, the downtown area. Chattanooga is beautiful. It's right by the river. You get to see the sights right from the Village. You get to see the swim exit, you get to see transition right there. You get to see where the run course goes out, the bike course goes out. So everything's just right there. Everything's nice. It's very clean. It's beautiful. It kind of gives you that great vibe. Weather was pretty good. Weather going into race day, I was looking at it all week. Didn't really seem that bad. As the week progressed, it said there was going to be a chance of showers sometime on race day, probably somewhere around the bike leg portion of the race. Didn't really look like it was going to be a washout, maybe just a quick sprinkle, and then it was going to, alleviate. Didn't really look like it was going to be very high winds. I think they were calling for, a peak of 7-8 mile per hour winds before that. So all in all, the weather was set to actually be pretty good for race day. Going into now race morning, it did rain the night before. The water temperature going into it was just above wetsuit legal. It was going to be wetsuit optional, which means if you wanted to wear a wetsuit, it was over the temperature threshold. You'd have to start after all the non-wetsuit swimmers got in the water. But as the 2 days we were there progressed, it was a little colder at night actually, which helped the water temperature come down. And then the night before the race, it did rain, which brought the temperature down to the level of being wetsuit legal for everybody. Everybody would start together whether you wore a wetsuit or not. Same as last year, same thing. There was a lot of rain leading up to the event, which also brought the water temperature down. So this race can be borderline on if it is below the temperature threshold to be wetsuit legal or wetsuit optional. So relay event, that's what I was doing. Bike leg, little side note about the relays. Let's talk about just some logistics on an Ironman relay. So like typical Ironman fashion here, you'll have your bags, your run bag, your bike bag. It's all at one transition. You'll have your morning clothes bag. The swim does start upstream, so they will bus you there in the morning from transition. So you do have to wake up a little earlier to get down there to be able to make the bus to get there. It is a decent bit of a wait, a long line down there. I remember that from last year. But with the relay option, if you're doing the bike leg, you don't have to be there as early in the morning. Same with the run. Really, all you have to do is make sure you're in transition, ready to go at your bike rack, which is separate from the other bikes in transition, and await that timing chip and await your athlete to come out of the water or off the bike to give you the timing chip. So you really don't have any gear bags to deal with. There's definitely a lot less stress-free logistically, but it really was kind of not many people had the answers for, the ins and the outs about the relay, just because this is something newer that's not common with the full distance. So after kind of some back and forth, we figured out, okay, my swimmer's going to get there in the morning with everybody else. He's going to go with all the other racers from the team. He's going to pack his morning clothes bag at the swim. Whatever he doesn't need, that's going to get transported back to transition for him. What was good about having to only do the bike leg is I didn't have to wake up at 4:15 in the morning or whatever time everybody left the house. I was able to the race started at 7:30. We figured with the downriver swim, my swimmer would be out of the water at least about 60 minutes, we thought, right about that hour 10 minutes. So I would have till at least 8:30, 8:45, and I just need to be transitioned maybe a half hour before that. So myself and my runner, we traveled down there to see our swimmer exit the water. I was able to get into transition around 7:30, 7:45, take my time, bring a bag in with me with just the stuff I needed for my bike. They let you right in. You go to the bike rack with all the other relay participants getting ready for the bike. I was able to get everything I needed on, my shoes, my helmet, and just sit there and wait. I had my phone with me just there, seeing it, when he got in the water. And then the great part is he can get out of the water. He runs right past all the bags that everyone else is getting for the full distance. He runs right to the relay rack in the corner transition. Will just give me his timing chip. My bag of whatever I didn't need, I just hand off to him to go give to my support crew, and then off on a bike ride we went. So let's talk about the swim that day first. It's a downriver swim. It did rain the night before. It's controlled by a dam upriver. So the more it rains, the more water that has to be released out of that dam and go downriver. People swam fast. I think my swimmer did it in about 55 minutes or so. There were some fast times there. We're talking 45-minute, 50-minute full iron swims. So right away, we were off to the start. We knew it was looking like a good day. The weather was kind of overcast, still dry out. Thought that was going to be perfect, where we weren't going to have such a hot bike ride. Comes out, we hit transition, gets me the chip. I head out on the bike. Again, I'm dry, fresh legs, fueled up, slept well, not the stress of doing the full Ironman race. That's what's pretty cool about doing the relay here. Head out now onto the Chattanooga Ironman bike course. We're talking now it's 116 miles as opposed to the 112. You get a little extra bang for your buck. For a real quick overview of the bike course, it is kind of shaped like a little bit of a knife. There's a handle. You come down 10 miles out of town, and then you do 2 loops. I believe it's about a 46-mile loop twice, and then you hit that about 10 miles back into town. The first 10 miles going out before you hit the loop, especially the first half of that, is getting out of the city. There are some turns, there are some train tracks, there were some people losing bottles right away. Please secure your gear. I say that all the time at any race, but especially going through cities like this. You don't want to lose your nutrition or fuel right away coming out of that. Make sure you have things secured on your bike, whether it has to be bungees on the back with your bottles, whatever it is. Just make sure everything you have is secure on your bike, flat tire kits and everything. We head out just at an easy, moderate pace. But again, I knew I didn't have to run the marathon after this today, so I really wanted to see what kind of bike split I could do. After we got about to that 10-mile mark and go to hit that first loop, I don't know where it came from. I obviously didn't have a phone to see the radar or anything, what's going on, but it just opened up. The clouds rolled in, it got a little foggy in the distance, it got dark out, and it just opened up. I mean, rain, sideways rain, windy, windy, windy bike course. It felt like we're going through that cell that was supposed to come through, that was going to be a quick rainstorm for the day that we saw earlier, but it felt like as we traveled south out of the city that it was just following us. It would start to maybe let up for a couple minutes and then it would be back on top of you. This was the first time I used my full race setup on my bike, which was a disc wheel in the back and an 80 front. I raced this at Atlantic City a couple weeks before. Wasn't that windy out at that race and it performed really well. Crosswinds really weren't a problem with me, but these weren't crosswinds I was used to. There was no way these were 7 or 8 mile per hour winds. We're talking gusty winds with sideways rain. As you can see in some of the pictures, I mean, it was sketchy. The first 20 miles or so south before you turn around and finish the first loop, there was definitely a few times, you know, just holding on to the base bar, basically holding that front wheel steady. The thought did cross my mind a few times during that bike that, is it worth it pushing that hard? Is it worth it even staying out here if the weather gets any worse than this? This is just a relay. We're not going for an Ironman finish. You didn't devote your entire year of training to this one specific race. You know, would it be worth it? God forbid something happens and you go down on the bike. Check yourself mentally again. You know, my swimmer did his job. I have a runner waiting for me there. There's other people. This is a different element now being on the relay. It's a team effort. It's something fun we were doing for an important cause, raising money for fallen officers and their families, being with Team Blue Line. So that why and reasoning for being out there kept my head in the game, and it definitely changed the way I usually bike. I had to stay in the moment the whole time, worry about every hill, worry about every turn, worry about every descent, worry about every crosswind, and just stay focused on staying in control of the bike the entire time. And knowing that everybody else was out here suffering just as I was, with plenty of people with the same wheel set up and getting blown around like myself. So we just had at it. The funny part is, as we made the turnaround to go back north on the first loop, at least when I made the turn, it was like someone shut the water off and it was completely dry out. I thought, wow, maybe it's staying on the other side of the course and this is going to be, you know, a nice dry side. That only lasted a few minutes before the rain came over to that side, and so it was just this on-off constant in and out of these scattered cells of, you know, just terrible torrential downpours. So the bike course in general listed just over 4,800 feet in elevation. On those 2 loops, you head south. That is more of a positive elevation gain going south. It is rolling hills for sure. It can be a very fast bike course under the right conditions. There's only a few real climbs that, you know, you're going to have to dig deep on, especially when you get a little tired. The ones that really stick out are right before the turnaround. You're going to climb a bit before you make the left-hand turn to come back north. And then as well on the end of the northern side of the loop, right when you pass the special needs stop, is a nice climb that lasts a little while, and then before you make the left turn to start the second loop. So you're going to do each of those climbs twice, but other than that, it's very rolling because there are not a lot of turns on this course. It's a very straight and kind of sweeping turns that you're able to take at speed. So southbound, again, you're getting a little bit of that positive elevation gain, but when you turn, it's kind of downhill till that last climb where you can really, when you make that turn to go northbound on the second half of the first loop, you can really open up there and start to really add some speed to it. Overall, I love the bike course. I wish I would have had better conditions to really do that Ironman time trial that I was looking for, but I was able to shave 30 minutes off of my bike time from last year. Again, I know I didn't have to swim before and I didn't have to run after, but I wanted to see really what I could do for that distance. I've only ridden over 100 miles less than a handful of times so far in my triathlon career. I'm more of that middle distance racer, but I was able to average just over 21 miles per hour, ran a 5:29 bike split, and I believe it was about the 77th overall bike for the day, bike split, I believe. So I felt decent afterwards. Yes, my legs were super tired, and just mentally, I think it's that finish line for me. When I got off the bike, yeah, my legs were toasted because mentally I knew that was my finish line for the day. If I knew I had to get on the run, I mean, I don't know how long I would have been able to hold a decent pace, but time will tell. That was just a learning a point for the day just to see what we could do. So coming into town, everyone for the last 10 miles, or at least 5 miles of that last 10-mile section from the loops to get back into town, you could tell we're trying to save their legs, pedal at a higher cadence, kind of get the blood flowing to get ready for that run. I was able to just hammer down basically that last 10 miles, knowing my finish line and my runner were waiting for me in a few miles. Head back into transition. Relay time, so it's a little different. They take my bike, they bring it back to the rack like usual on the Ironman. I run through the bags, the run bag section, run through the tent where everybody's changing in transition, meet my runner on the other side right where the run course starts, hand my timing chip over. She was ready to go, and off she went. And again, learning curves for everybody. She's an Ironman athlete and coach as well. It's very kind of weird to run a marathon starting so late in the day. And believe it or not, the rain had stopped, at least in the city, and after I was done with my bike, just kind of cleaned up and changed real quick, I noticed it started to get really warm out. I came off the bike feeling a little chilly, pruny hands from being soaking wet, but it did get warm out relatively quickly for at least the next couple hours. So she head off, she did her marathon, a little bit of struggle towards the end on the marathon, just because, it just was a weird day altogether conditions-wise. So I had my struggles on the bike. She had a few struggles on the run, but she knew the team was counting on her to grind it out and finish. She was able to finish the marathon. I think as a team, we finished at about, I think it was about a 12:20 overall time. Really cool to have a stress-free day at an Ironman event, be able to participate, be out on the course, be able to then, while my runner's running, be able to support my team and all the athletes that were especially out there for their first times. The run course, real quick, we'll just recap the type of run course that it is I would consider it a hilly run course. You're talking just over 1,100 feet of elevation, but it's really not rolling elevation. It's specific climbs that you have to go through, specifically on the north end of the bridges in the city. After you get out on the course, you're going to run past the water, you're going to run up a little hill. Well, it's not too little for some people, but you're going to run up a hill and you're going to head down the highway a little bit. You're going to turn, you're going to come down the river walk. You're going to go across one of the vehicle bridges into a residential area on the north side of town. Go up the infamous Barton Avenue, which if you don't train hills, and I said that last year during my other race recap, if you're not training specifically for this type of hills that are going to come on race day, it's going to smoke you, especially on the second loop. I remember how it felt last year. I was running pretty well, and then you hit that Barton Avenue return going back into the city, and it definitely takes the power out of your legs, whatever you had left. But just remember, if you're doing this race, that second time you do Barton Avenue on the second loop of the run, it's basically downhill from there back into the city. You just got to crest over the pedestrian bridge. And when you make those couple left-hand turns at the end, I'll never forget it. I watched everybody last week, come down that finisher chute, that last street down there. Once you get over that or get to that pedestrian bridge, that's like the finish line. You hear it in the distance to your right, the finish line. You got to go over, make a few left turns under the bridge, and it's your turn to go down the red carpet. The energy was electric. There was no rain on the run course. It was just during the bike. So at the finish line, it was good weather that night. We watched everybody come in. We watched the team come in. We watched all the first timers from Team Blue Line come in. Everybody that I was tracking that day finished that race. Again, it was what was turning into a great day with everybody's swims, and then a challenging bike and always a challenging run, I'm sure, on Ironman for everybody. Again, great time. Chattanooga did not disappoint. Would I go back there? I'm not in any rush to go back there since I've now traveled to Tennessee 2 years in a row. I do know a bunch of local people that are doing it next year, but I would definitely do that race again. It is definitely, when you hear people talk about Chattanooga, they always have good things to say about it. It just, the atmosphere, the course is really nice. The bike course was well paved as opposed to last year. They definitely fixed a lot of areas on the bike course. The run is tough. It does get a little lonely out there, but when does a marathon not get lonely? But the atmosphere in and around the city, especially on the bridges or by the finish line and some of those places, definitely get a lot of support. And then real quick, let's just talk about my final thoughts of relays in the Ironman distance triathlon. It's good because it does get more people involved, especially like in our case, when you have a team going down there, it gets more people involved in the race and the team going there. But I still think that it's something that should be reserved for maybe just the middle distance, the 70.3 distance. I don't think there's really a big place for relays in the full distance, but that's just my opinion. It's just it's the day of people doing their Ironman, whether it's their first one, their 10th one, their 20th one, whether they're trying to qualify for a world spot. I just think when you look at the athletes that are out there, whether it's in the swim, the bike, or the run, you know, you look at them as, wow, they're really doing something extraordinary that day. It's, again, was great to be a part of that atmosphere again this year, but I still think that it's just something that should be reserved for athletes that are doing the entire event. But again, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know in the comments just how you feel about relays at full distance Ironman events. Again, when you cross the finish line, they know you're a relay team. They call you out as a relay team. But again, I remember that finish line last year. That is definitely a finish line that is earned, especially if it's your first Ironman. To be able to get to that finish line at an Ironman, I really think that it should be, you know, you doing that full event and just experiencing that for the first time. So going forward, as for me, North Carolina 70.3 is coming. I believe it's October 15th. I could be wrong on that one. I don't even remember the date, but I do know that it's 2 weeks from this weekend. And we're just maintaining fitness right now. My legs were a little heavy after that bike ride, as it should be. I mean, it was a 160-mile bike ride that I rode pretty well for myself. And just trying to maintain fitness now. There's really nothing you can gain within 2 weeks going into an event like that. It's just maintaining and recovering and staying at the distances you're at. And then we'll give it a go for one more time at the 70.3 distance this year. It'll be the third one. And we'll be able to wrap up triathlon season after that. Definitely going to make a video down in North Carolina. This is the first time I'm going to that race venue. I've heard great things about it. We're staying right by the beach in Wrightsville Beach. So hopefully we'll have some nice views down there. It's hopefully going to be nice weather. Keep fingers crossed. It'd be nice to just finish the year with a great race, good weather, good people down there, and just send it off for the year for triathlons and move on to the winter time. So thank you again for checking out the channel, checking out the video. Let me know if you did Ironman Chattanooga this year down below. Let me know how you felt out there, any other tips or tricks you might have for people on the course. As well, if you haven't done it but you signed up next year, let me know down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we're definitely going to have a North Carolina 70.3 recap. There's some very interesting and exciting news that I want to put out there going forward before the end of the year, especially going into next year. Some things I'm working on, goals and other updates like that, so you definitely don't want to miss out. So that's all I got for you. Just stay healthy, stay safe, balanced out life 1 mile at a time, and we'll see you on the next one. Take this, record you walking there. Just record the screen.
That actually scared me. That actually scared me.